Okay.
Probably, I should think of it, I could give you the data on this, but what we're doing is based upon a scripture and watching, and I'd have to get it, I'm not as brilliant as Ray is at some of that stuff, but just what Jesus was, when John the Baptist began to ask, when John the Baptist sent his guys over to see if Jesus was the one, and they said, go tell John the Baptist what you see. And the scripture is around the lame walking, the blind seeing, and go report that to him. And just this whole idea that Jesus did things in word and deed. So it wasn't just that he proclaimed the word, he also did the deeds. And so we've really taken a real focus on that there needs to be some level of balance in that. Our primary mission is church planting, and we drive that primary mission. And why? Because it's easy for people to come, easier, nothing's easy. It's easier for people to want to give to medical or dental. And so we push that church planting, and then the Redemptive Lift efforts come alongside of that. What we've been watching in our budget, really for the last 2 years, it's playing maybe a 60-40 rule, 60% church planting and our dollars coming 40% Redemptive Lift. And some years may shift that a little bit, just because trying to manage the capacity of the workload and what projects that we have going on. So when we look at what we're trying to do, and I'll do it a little bit different because I'm really a strong business mind.
Okay.
So Ray is true. He walks out and he says, I'm going to plan we're going to move to the Oromia region. I just want to weep, honestly. Because I'm thinking, we're just starting to get it here, kind of a thing. He says, no, we're done here. And we've done what God's called us to do here. It's time to go to the next region. And so like even now when he says, okay, now we're going to go plant 1,000 churches in the eastern region. I'm just like, man, should we? And he's just so clear on it. And then I just start running to get all the legal things in place, all the systems in place, that kind of stuff, so we can even manage it. Or just now, so example of how we work, so we're trying to go into the eastern region. Eliu got a call from somebody in Annis that's wanting to partner with us, and Ray goes, yeah, let's do that. And I'm like, okay, what's the budget for that? How much is that? Okay, are we saying he's going to stay 5 days or 3 days? Okay, you're talking about $5,000 on that. Are you realizing you're talking about $5,000 on that? And so that's how we play together. That's not who I am.
Really?
No. I'm a businesswoman. I used to be a chief operations officer of a company, and we did business in 43 countries. My heart was you started here doing the training. I was doing leadership training. That was my role. And I did the leadership spot in the training events. And then what began to happen is different people would be coming along, or a pastor would say to us, this was interesting. A pastor would say to us, I don't know if my people will get the giving to church planting, but they will get giving to medical. Now that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because that really told us that some of our pastors didn't even understand the Great Commission, what we were really supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But it did give away a vehicle in some of the churches for a pastor to share what we're doing, and it was so holistic that it helped their people understand what we were about and what we were trying to do. So, of course, when you go into a community, when we originally started the church planting, $150 of the church planting money a month was going to go towards what we called a microfinance. So it originally started with the idea in mind of helping them create sustainable businesses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the original plan. And that $150 didn't go to the church planter, it went to the church that they established. So if the church planter left, the church would have chickens, goats, cows.
It's a little business.
Yeah, because we were trying so hard to make the churches sustainable. Well, it wasn't too far into the project that we learned we didn't need to do that anymore. That they were kind of getting it themselves. In fact, hundreds were building their own churches and really becoming sustainable very quickly. And so we didn't need to go down that route.
Financially sustainable How are they earning the money? Just offerings? Tithes?
Offerings, tithes and offerings, just what, they're really becoming the New Testament church. And so they're giving into the storehouse, and then the pastors are creating a sustainable salary off of that. So it's this process of really, truly it developing into the church as it should be. The church in really its ideal state. But then what's interesting, many of our church planters, they'll make that sustainable, give another leader, and then they'll go off and start another one.
Wow.
So some of our church planters have moved with us from region to region to region. So we have this one that we launched. He planted 41 churches in the Betty Shangle Blues region. He joined our team and we released him this trip. And the week before he came, he already went out and launched his church. So they're machines, they're warriors, and they go for it. Yeah, very gifted. And then what we're trying to do is train them up on how to lead. So when we look at what Petros Network is, yes, we are sending out church planters. But the other component, so that is that physical, mechanical process system of sending out that church planter, but then is that process of developing the indigenous leader. Oh. So when you watch every single thing we do, we're developing the indigenous leader. So we're not trying to develop our people, Americans, we're not trying to give them pride or big heads, we're teaching them to serve, but to develop the indigenous leader. And that's why even with Elihu, we lift Elihu up. He's our country director. We honor him in that because it's developing the indigenous leader. So we had a documentary crew came out with us a few years ago, and I asked them afterwards, what did you see? And they said, you guys are just developing leaders all around you. It's about developing the leader. Well, then that brings in the Redemptive Lift. So we physically send out church planters, we develop the indigenous leader, and then Redemptive Lift, which also ties in developing the indigenous leader. So what we found is when we came in here for the church plants, of course you're going into rural Ethiopia, and there is very little infrastructure. And with the World Poverty Index, most of the people in the villages are living below $1.25 a day. So that considers them in extreme poverty. So then it comes, when a church planter goes into the village, usually in a village, the witch doctor is the head of that village, and they have the most knowledge, they lead the village, they direct it. Well, now we have this spiritual confrontation between our leader and the witch doctor with many, many stories you can find on them. The witch doctor becoming dead, falling dead, lightning striking their homes, all these kinds of things. Well, now our church planter is the leader. So the goal would be then, how do we train that church planter to introduce into their villages sanitation, marriage and family, honoring your wives, parenting, caring for your children. So that's kind of what really started moving us for the Redemptive Lift.
Can you list those again? Care for your children?
Well, it'd be like marriage and family. So for example, my husband tells a story on meeting a new convert in one of the villages, and he was standing there with his 5 wives. And the story goes around, what do you say to somebody like that? Because you have to engage their culture. You can't say, expel your 4 other wives, because they would be in starvation. So he said to this man, love your wives.
Great.
Because we have to modify, and we're not trying to delineate what we're doing, but we have to modify it a bit. Yeah. So when you look at Redemptive Lift, so the proclamation of the word, church plant goes in, the church is established, but all of life should change. Marriage and family, one of the things that we really saw is because we would come and love on the children, and we've been teaching the value of children's ministry. They will coddle their children. They will hug their children.
What they did before.
Oh no, switches and whips. Oh. Women and children have been treated like dogs. They are the low caste of society. Yeah, low caste of society. So when we were here and we were seeing the church growing, so there's several areas that we participated in. One, we bring in Bibles and Bible literature. So there's the church plant. We bring in Bibles and Bible literature. We bring in agriculture. So our goal back behind the guest house is to plant a model farm that we would be a part of, and it's again on this microfinance idea. We would begin to teach the planters, for example, how to farm. when we started, what they would do is they would take the seed and just toss it and scatter it. So something as simple as taking the seed and putting it in a row, and then making sure that they're tilling the ground and making sure that they're pulling the weeds, something that simple changed their harvest. And so we've been able to kind of teach them how to farm and do things a little bit differently. So we started the model farm. We also participate in a 50-acre farm that is about 2 hours from here. And what's on that farm is we're harvesting teff, we're doing beehives, we're doing goats, and we're doing oxen. And that is, we've put an investment of funds. We hire when we can widows and the people who are less fortunate. And we're trying to create something that is sustainable. So in the event that we could no longer wire any money, that we could no longer come, there would be some things in place that would help them to carry on. So that's the then clean water. We've laid a mile or so of pipe and putting in a new well, I'm going like pump, that should be releasing water to a whole nother region, section of Gojo. So all the pipe's been laid. What we're waiting right now is for the pump to come in. And most of the illnesses that we're seeing right now have to do with waterborne illnesses. So water was something that we really had to do. We've also done a few wells out in some of the villages because that's part of bringing the Redemptive Lift. Medical and dental clinics. That started, we did medical, we also started that in the Benishangul-Gumuz region, and we would bring in medical teams and medicines, and then we partnered in the Benishangul-Gumuz region with the hospital there. One hospital served 1 million people. So, in other words, nothing. When we walked in there the first time, all of their shelves were completely empty, and we opened up 9 duffel bags of medications and medicines. In fact, it was such a big event. Our daughter led that event. Such a big event, the news media came out for it. So it was such a gift. Now here in the Benishangul-Gumuz region, you kind of know the story, what's happening with the medical, happening with Southeast Christian and Pepsi really leading that dimension. Here's what's been interesting so far about the Redemptive Lift. As different churches have gotten involved, so far, each church that's really taken responsibility in an area has chosen a different area. We had this list of areas. We wanted to do Bible literature, we wanted to do agriculture, we wanted to do water, we wanted to do medical and dental relief, we wanted to do education, we wanted to care for orphans, we wanted to do athletics and sports, and then we wanted to do the widows and care for them and the microgrants. There's not a single church that's come up and saw, and we never said it, we didn't say, this is what we're going to do. Partners would come over, and then they would sit there and like a night around the fire where they go, my church would like to do this. Not one of them picked the same area so far. It's been really pretty cool.
So not one of the churches that were planted picked the same area to develop?
Not one of the church pastors from the U.S., Canada, or Bermuda.
Okay, I see.
Has championed. They've each championed a different area. So we had these buckets, spheres of influence that we knew we needed to impact to really change a culture. So our church planner goes in, and what our goal is, we're creating Gojo as our center, but what our goal is, once we get this established, that would be launching out into 1,000 different villages. So really, truly, we have now this network that's enormous. So the idea that clean water or agriculture or the care for organs or education or this widows project that I'm going to talk to you in a minute about, medical, dental, would go out into all these areas. So when we're planning something, we're watching, we're seeing, we're noticing what is happening in Gojo, all the while thinking, we've got 10,000 churches we're going to push this out to.
Wow.
So my wheels are always spinning. I'm watching what works. I'm watching what's broken. I'm watching, because I'm a systems person, so I'm just always watching the systems with that. One of the projects that became really, really a big one to me, and that was coming here, and you saw the extreme poverty, and we didn't want to just give money away. We've been very careful to move all the money through the church leaders, and we've been very careful to make, we hire them for this. We hire to carry our luggage, or we hire to work in the kitchen, rather than just giving out candy and money. And we just don't want that knowledge of the American people coming in here.
Okay.
What I noticed very quickly was that the women were really treated as really low citizens. I also watched that the women were doing all the labor. You can go out here and you see women carrying on their backs sticks weighing about 50 to 75 pounds. And they were the ones lugging the water. They were getting the wood on their backs to build the homes. They were getting the firewood. They were caring for the children. They were doing all the cooking. And the men were just sitting around the town. And many cases in the villages that you go out to, sitting around the town getting drunk. And I watched that, and then you see the children, and they were disrespected. And you watch that, and it began to really just break my heart. And so I went to some of the Ethiopians, and I just asked them, who are your most desperate? Who would be the lowest rung on the human list in this? And they said the widows. The widows and probably the orphans, because there's so many. And I said, okay. And we, again, didn't want to pass out money, so we collected 12 widows around us, and we began to interview them, and the majority of them, I want to get my facts straight, I believe that they were earning maybe $2 a week. And so give you an example on that. So $8 to $11 a month is what they would earn. If you go in the marketplace out here, to buy a skirt is $15. So they were wearing tattered clothing, there was holes in it, they were layering all these different things, just trying to even keep warm and okay. So their money was really low. Well, that's even less than the World Bank Poverty Index of $1.25 a day.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm like, wow, these guys are below poor. They are the ultra poor. And so what can we do to begin to shift this and change things? So we began to bring, kind of just get to know them, interviewed them. We have really big data sheets. We find out, how do they cook in their homes? How many meals do they have a day? What are they eating every day? Do they have bathrooms, latrines in their home? And interesting enough, I would say that 70% do not even have a bathroom hole attached to their homes. They're just going out in the fields and defecating all over the place. And in one of the homes, which is a side note, they were planting onions and they were going poop and pee in the same place they were planting their onions.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine the sickness that is getting repeated through this society. So we selected 12 orphans, we interviewed them, we found out all about their lives. We went in and visited every single one of their homes, and to see if the Ethiopian said to me if they were poor enough. First trip out, went into one of the homes, and I was devastated. I mean, I was devastated. And we went into a widow's home, and we all came, it was 3 widows home that night, and we came back, and they said to me, Linda, this widow over here, we can't, Abaru was her name, because we can't sponsor her. And I go, well, why? And they said, because she's too rich. And I'm like, she's too rich? And, mud floors, mud walls. She might have had a few dishes in her house in little Chinese cups and some Tupperware things they were using as dinner plates. There was 5 people sleeping in a single bed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Newspaper was on the wall to keep the wind from, rattling the place to death. And the conversation was that,
Hello?
did you not see the...
We're doing a quick interview.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was told to go in here.
Okay.
This is widow orphan stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of prenatal things
Ooh, beautiful.
that we want to leave with you
Yeah.
versus Becla.
Yeah, beautiful.
And some BP things and candy.
Anything you want to bring in.
Okay.
So they said, did you not see that there was a bag of coal? The bag of coal was like this little bag of coal. And did you not see she had 2 chickens? She has a way to live. I began sobbing, and I couldn't even lift myself up off the floor. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. So the next morning I had a team, and I go, I can't even visit these women. If I have to make decisions about their grants that we're gonna give them, I can't see them, because I'll just give it all away. So they had their sheets, they went and did the interviews. They showed back up in the building here, it was a man and a woman. And they walked in, and the man came in and says, Lynn, I have a beef with you. And I went, oh great, what happened out there? And I'm like, and he just, like that, this man, sobbing. And then this woman came in, and she just looked at me, and she just fell in my arms, sobbing hysterically, because they'd been in these widows' homes. And they go, you can't, you've got to sponsor them. And just the devastation that they see. So what we did is we interviewed them, we had them fill out a business plan, we walked them through, they had to get the prices on everything. Hysterical moment. The pastors, the widow, translators, me sitting there, they were all arguing with each other, fighting with each other on how much this widow should be. And so at that point I had to play hardball. And I go, well, you know, we can't sponsor her for these reasons. And then they'd argue, you know, and like for these reasons. One of our widows had a college education. And I'm like, she's got a college education. And she was given a job by the government and declined it. And why she had declined it is because it meant her moving to another village and she wasn't able to care for her family. So initially I'm like, you know, she declined a job, she must not be that desperate. So the pastor came in and fought for her. And so, okay, you know what, we're gonna try it on your word. And that widow today, so this has been now 2.5 years, that widow today owns a seed and spice shop. She owns a restaurant, and she's launching a hotel. Unbelievable.
Seed and spice shop.
A restaurant.
A restaurant and a
Hotel. And we went and visited it yesterday. It's gorgeous. And you're just like, oh my goodness gracious with it. And it's just, and so we've come, we do training with them, we do development, like we teach hygiene and cleanliness. We did some things on women's issue, feminine hygiene this time. This is the belief. We can give them money, and this is even the belief about the church planners. You can't give money without education, because the money will go away, but education will never go away. That's a gift that never goes away. So now this next trip, we sponsored another 6 women. Add on to that, we've launched this thing called the TESFA Project, and what we're going to do, what I noticed was some of the widows couldn't work, or couldn't run their businesses, but they could work. So we're going to create a sewing center and primarily start with school uniforms and some churches. We're going to look through some of the product, but we have a business with a school uniforms. In the center will be the sewing center. We're going to do a women's and children's clinic. We're going to do a home management training area, teaching them how to cook and kind of change some lifestyle things. Sanitation is a big part of that. And then we're going to have a small daycare. So as the women work, we can help take care of their children and keep them off the streets. What you find with the widows is the children can't go to school because the kids go out on the streets to get water and wood.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're trying to get them in school. We're trying to get the widows learning a trade and kind of sustain the lifestyle. So we're looking at the Blue School area or the old church to build a pretty significant center this next year.
And how far does American dollars go in construction? Here?
You know, when you look at the school, I don't know if you've seen the school yet, we invested about $175,000. It's a big school. It houses 286 students. And the church was an investment of, oh boy, if I want to get this straight, $75,000.
Just for construction?
Yeah. And I would say this guest house, because of all the showers and the toilets and all that that's in, it's been easily $175,000.
The dormitory?
No, the dormitory was very little, but this here was about $75,000.
Okay.
But we're going to add on here a dining hall attachment and in kind of like a long training area that we can do smaller trainings and actually create a restaurant in this.
Really?
So we can start getting people. So who's staying in this now? We come in and stay, different teams come in and stay, and Olympians come in and stay here and train up here. Yeah.
Huh.
So it's kind of like the nicest spot in town, and we're trying to create, the goal on that was to create income that would generate so that in case we got called out of the country, they would need no more U.S. funding. That's the plan. Sustainable, sustainable, sustainable
Awesome.
is the plan on that.
What else would you like to tell Americans?
And I don't know if I want to tell them anything. One of the things that I would add, added to Ray's thing is, we need funding, but we need talent.
Hmm.
And, people, what the Redemptive Lift site has done, it's taken people who have brilliant minds and skills, not as theologians or pastors, but in agriculture or water management or engineering or architectural design. And it's brought people like that and has allowed them to use their skills for the glory of God.
Mm.
So I think that's been the beautiful part of it.
Yeah.
And so really, we launched Petros Network Canada, and so that's my role's been a lot of the business side of it. And somebody said to me when we were up there visiting, man, you guys must have some brilliant minds around you. And I just laughed and I thought, yeah, we do. All volunteer. It's just people who are using how God designed them and how God created them, and their passion for the glory of God. So, whether it's orphans is another area, athletics, we're going to do a big race out here and sponsor some of the Olympians.
Oh, nice.
And then, what we'll do the time of the planting, and then our church planners who are here for training will go out and evangelize. They expect 40,000 people to show up.
Wow.
So we use every vehicle under the sun
Yeah.
to create opportunities to advance the kingdom.
To advancing.
So what I would want people to know and think about that is God created each of us unique with different passions and interests and skill set to be used all for the glory of God. So it's not about us earning an income or providing for our families. That's part of it. But God created you with that gift set and that mindset to be used for His glory. And so there comes a dimension of it. Yes, there's stuff that we do just to provide for our daily living, but there's stuff that we need to do that's done unselfishly, unfettered for the glory of God. And I think that's when we do that, it makes God smile. And kind of the thing with me, for example, why in the world did I run a company? Why in the world did I travel to the different places that I've been able to go to? Why did God give me those opportunities for such a time as this to be used for His glory? So Ray and I are really weird. We're a unique couple. And he is the vision caster, and I'm like systems all around him, trying to keep up, creating things. And why does God do that? It's just about His glory and putting things together. And you just talking, people who watch us think, we're like one head. Like I can almost hear what he's thinking and start running to structure it. But I need greater minds than me around to help us go to the next level.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with the widows and orphans?
Oh, I don't know. When you come back in a year from now, you're going to be blown away.
Just because of the progress?
Yeah. This one gal this week, the doctors examined her